This story is titled, My Girlfriend and Her Girls on a Live TikTok Stream Called Tinder in Real Life, Rating Male University Students Gave Me the Lowest Score. So I announced our breakup in chat. Then she and her girls started desperately calling me during the stream, claiming it was just a stupid joke. Hey everyone, my name is Marcus, and I'm 24 years old. Until last Thursday night, I genuinely thought I had my life completely figured out. I was dating Chloe, who was 23 at the time, and she was exactly the kind of girl who made other guys jealous just by walking into a room. There was something magnetic about her presence that commanded attention wherever she went. She held the position of president of her sorority, which came naturally to her given her charismatic personality. Chloe had this incredibly infectious laugh that could light up an entire room, and when she looked at you during a conversation, it felt like you were the only person in the entire world. We had been together for 10 months at that point, and I was already seriously thinking about engagement rings and our future together. Looking back now, I realize I should have paid more attention to the red flags that were clearly there. The thing about Chloe was that she lived and breathed social media validation. Her Instagram account was absolutely perfectly curated, with every single photo carefully planned and edited to maintain her image. Her TikTok videos consistently went viral, which only fed into her need for constant attention and approval from strangers online. She documented literally every single moment of her life, from her morning coffee routine to her nighttime skincare regimen. At first, I actually thought it was cute how she would film us making breakfast together on weekend mornings, creating these little domestic moments that she would share with her followers. She regularly posted pictures from our date nights with captions like "My Heart" and "Forever Mood," which made me feel like she was genuinely proud to be with me. I was completely naive about what was really going on behind the scenes. Thursday night arrived like any other. Chloe was attending her sorority's end-of-semester party, which was a big deal for them since it marked the conclusion of another successful academic term. Meanwhile, I was at home in my dorm room, diligently studying for my upcoming finals. I was completely trusting of her and had no reason to suspect anything was wrong. I felt secure in our relationship and was focused on my academic responsibilities. Around 11 p.m., my phone buzzed with a notification that would change everything. The alert read, Chloe_Rose23 is live on TikTok. I smiled to myself, expecting to see her and her sorority sisters dancing around, maybe doing shots, or just having the typical college party fun that I'd seen dozens of times before. What I actually witnessed on that live stream was something that would completely shatter my world and everything I thought I knew about our relationship. The camera feed was incredibly shaky, clearly being held by her roommate Zoe, who was obviously trying to capture everything while navigating through the crowded party. Chloe was positioned front and center in the sorority house living room, wearing a tight black dress that I had never seen before. This immediately struck me as odd since I thought I knew her entire wardrobe pretty well after 10 months together. Around her were 6 of her sorority sisters, all dressed to kill, and clearly several drinks deep into the evening. The room was absolutely packed with people from various fraternities, creating this chaotic party atmosphere that I could feel through the screen. Okay, ladies, Chloe slurred, her words slightly running together as she addressed both the camera and everyone in the room. It's time for our annual tradition. She paused dramatically, clearly enjoying the anticipation she was building. Hot or not Thursday? The room absolutely erupted in cheers and applause, with people whooping and raising their drinks in celebration. My stomach immediately dropped as I began to realize what I was about to witness. For those just tuning in, Chloe continued, gesturing dramatically at the camera with the kind of theatrical flair that she always used when she was performing for an audience. We rate the guys here tonight. Scale of 1 to 10. Brutally honest opinions only. She winked directly at the lens with this predatory smile that I had never seen before, and I watched in horror as the viewer count began climbing rapidly. It started at 247 people watching, then jumped to 350, then 500, and it just kept growing. I sat there in my dorm room, completely frozen as I realized that this was not some innocent sorority fun or harmless party game. This was public humiliation disguised as entertainment, and I was watching it happen in real time. Zoe continued to pan the camera around the room, landing on different guys who were clearly unaware of what was happening. The sorority sisters would shout out numbers. 7, 4, he's definitely a 9, while Chloe would give her expert opinion on each person's appearance. The chat was going absolutely wild, with hearts flying by constantly and comments like, "Yes, Chloe," and "Rate my boyfriend next," streaming past faster than I could read them. Then came the moment that completely shattered my world and changed everything I thought I knew about the person I loved. "Wait, wait," Chloe said suddenly, looking directly at the camera with what I can only describe as a predatory smile. She clearly had something planned, and the way she was building up to it made my blood run cold. "Before we finish, I have to address the elephant in the room." She paused for dramatic effect, clearly loving every second of the attention she was receiving from both the live audience and the growing online viewership. "My boyfriend, Marcus." The way she said my name made my blood turn to ice in my veins. The chat absolutely exploded with activity. People started typing, "Where is Marcus?" and "Rate him," and "We want to see the boyfriend." The messages were coming so fast that the screen was just a blur of comments and emojis. Chloe leaned closer to the camera and her voice dropped to that fake, intimate tone that she always used when she wanted something from me. It was the same voice she used when she needed me to pay for dinner or wanted me to skip studying to spend time with her. "Since he's not here to defend himself," she said, looking around at her sisters who were all grinning like hyenas who had just spotted their prey. "And since you guys are always asking about him in my other videos, I guess it's time for the truth." The anticipation in the room was palpable, and I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I waited for whatever was about to come next. "Chloe, don't," Zoe whispered from behind the camera. But she kept filming anyway, clearly torn between protecting her friend and capturing what was obviously going to be dramatic content. Her warning only made the situation feel more ominous. Like even her closest friend knew that what was about to happen would cross a line. "Marcus is sweet," Chloe began, and for just a split second, I thought she might actually say something nice about me. Maybe this was all building up to some kind of loving tribute or inside joke between us. "He's reliable," she continued, and I could already hear the "but" coming in her tone. "He always pays for dinner, which is nice." She paused again, pretending to think deeply while clearly savoring the moment. "And he's—" Another dramatic pause as she looked around the room for effect. "He's a solid 6 out of 10. The room went completely silent for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only a beat. Then it exploded in shocked laughter, gasps, and long drawn-out oohs from everyone present. The chat was moving so fast that I could barely read individual comments, but I caught glimpses of "dragged him," "rip Marcus." Chloe said what she said, and she really went there. But Chloe wasn't done destroying me. Not even close. "Look, I love him, but let's be real," she continued, now fully performing for her audience both in person and online. This wasn't the Chloe I knew in private moments. This was Chloe the performer, the social media influencer who would do anything for views and validation. "He's not exactly Brad Pitt, you know?" Her sisters were absolutely dying laughing at this point, covering their mouths and grabbing each other's arms like this was the most hilarious thing they'd ever heard. "He's studying psychology, drives a Toyota Camry," she went on, listing these facts about me like they were character flaws rather than just normal aspects of my life. "His idea of a perfect Thursday night is Netflix and pizza." The way she said it made it sound pathetic rather than cozy. She was taking all the quiet, intimate moments we'd shared and turning them into ammunition for public humiliation. "He's safe, predictable," she continued, her voice gaining momentum as she got more comfortable with tearing me apart for entertainment. "The kind of guy you date when you want stability, not excitement." These words hit me like physical blows. Every single thing she was saying was taking our private relationship and recontextualizing it as something boring and disappointing. Someone in the room shouted, "So why are you with him then?" And I could hear multiple people laughing and encouraging whoever had asked the question. Chloe shrugged casually, taking a long sip from her drink like she was considering the question for the first time, though I could tell by her expression that she had been waiting for exactly this moment. "Honestly," she said, looking directly into the camera, with this cold expression I had never seen before. "Because I'm not ready to be single again. It's easier to have a placeholder boyfriend than deal with dating apps and random hookups." The word placeholder hit me like a truck. At least I know what I'm getting with Marcus. He's consistent, predictable, and he doesn't cause any drama. Placeholder boyfriend. Those words echoed in my head as I sat there in complete shock. 10 months of my life. 10 months of thinking I was building something real and meaningful with someone I genuinely loved. 10 months of planning our future together, of being completely loyal and devoted to her. And to her, I was just a placeholder, a temporary solution until something better came along. The chat was in complete chaos now. The viewer count had exploded to over 2,000 people, and I knew that screenshots were definitely being taken. This wasn't just a private humiliation anymore. This was going viral in real time. My complete destruction was becoming entertainment for thousands of strangers who were watching my girlfriend systematically tear apart everything I thought we had together. I sat there for exactly 30 seconds, just letting the reality of what had just happened sink in completely. The shock was gradually wearing off, and I could feel something shifting inside me. It wasn't anger, surprisingly. It wasn't even heartbreak in the traditional sense. It was just pure, crystal-clear clarity about what I needed to do next. The fog of confusion and hurt was lifting, and I could see the situation for exactly what it was. I opened TikTok on my laptop and navigated to my profile page. My hands were surprisingly steady as I clicked on the Edit Profile option. When the page loaded, I scrolled down to the Relationship Status section and changed it from "in a relationship" to "single." It was such a simple action, just a few clicks, but it felt like I was taking back control of my life after watching it get destroyed on live stream. Then I opened Chloe's live stream again, this time with a purpose. I started typing in the chat, my fingers moving quickly across the keyboard as I crafted the message that would change everything. "Thanks for letting me know where I stand, Chloe," I typed. "Consider yourself officially unplaced." I hit enter and watched as my comment appeared in the flood of messages streaming by. For a moment, my comment got completely lost in the chaos of other messages. The chat was moving so fast with reactions to what had just happened that individual comments were barely visible for more than a second. But then, someone noticed. Someone always notices. "Wait, is that Marcus?" appeared on the screen. "OMG, Marcus is in the chat," followed immediately after. "He saw everything," came next. The chat began to shift from general entertainment to genuine shock as people realized that the boyfriend who had just been publicly humiliated was actually watching and responding in real time. Zoe noticed first. I watched her face go completely white as she read the comments flying by on the screen. She frantically grabbed Chloe's arm and whispered something urgent in her ear, pointing at the phone. Chloe's confident smirk, the one she'd been wearing while tearing me apart, disappeared instantly. The color drained from her face as the reality of the situation hit her. She grabbed the phone from Zoe with shaking hands, her eyes scanning the chat frantically as she tried to find my comment among the thousands of messages. "Marcus," she said into the camera, her voice suddenly small and vulnerable, completely different from the confident performer she had been just moments before. "Baby, are you watching? It was just a joke. I didn't mean..." But I was already logging out of the stream. I had work to do, and watching her panic wasn't part of my plan. I took a screenshot of my relationship status change and posted it to my Instagram story with the caption, "When you find out you're a placeholder on live stream with 2,000 viewers." I added a clown face emoji for good measure, because sometimes the situation speaks for itself and you just need to add that extra touch of clarity. Then I did something that would make this night absolutely legendary in our college's history. I shared Chloe's live stream link to my Instagram story with the caption, "Currently watching my placeholder status get upgraded to single. Thanks for the public service announcement, babe." It was petty, sure, but it was also completely justified given what had just happened. My phone immediately started buzzing like crazy. Text after text from friends who had seen my story and were now watching the live stream themselves. The viewer count on Chloe's stream was climbing rapidly as word spread through our social circles. People were sharing it, commenting on it, and making it into the campus drama of the semester. But the real genius move came next, and I'm still proud of this one. I opened our shared Spotify account, the one we used for our couples playlist that she was always posting about on social media. She loved showing off our relationship goals playlist and would frequently post screenshots of us listening to music together. I deleted every single song except one, "Thank You Next" by Ariana Grande. Then I changed the playlist name from Marcus and Chloe's Love Songs to Chloe's Placeholder Era. My roommate Blake walked into our dorm room just as I was finishing up my social media masterpiece. He looked confused by the intense focus I had on my phone and laptop. "Dude, what are you doing?" he asked, clearly puzzled by my behavior. "Chloe's been calling you like crazy. I could hear your phone buzzing from down the hall." "Upgrading my life," I said simply, showing him my phone screen. The evidence of Chloe's panic was overwhelming. 17 missed calls from her, 43 text messages that I hadn't even bothered to read, and my Instagram story already had over 300 views in just 10 minutes. The notifications were still coming in constantly, making my phone buzz every few seconds. Blake looked at my screen with wide eyes, then shifted his attention to my laptop, where Chloe's live stream was still playing. She was now crying on camera, frantically trying to end the stream while her sorority sisters looked absolutely mortified in the background. The confident party atmosphere had completely evaporated, replaced by chaos and damage control. "Holy shit," Blake whispered, taking in the full scope of what was happening. "You're about to be campus famous." He was absolutely right, and honestly, he had no idea just how right he was. By midnight, #placeholder_boyfriend was trending on our college's anonymous confession page. Screenshots of my Instagram story were being shared everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, group chats. Someone had even managed to record Chloe's entire meltdown and posted it to TikTok with dramatic music overlay. But the best part was still yet to come, and I had no idea just how far this would all spiral. The real chaos began almost immediately. My phone was buzzing nonstop with notifications from every social media platform I had. Friends were texting me, people I barely knew were commenting on my posts, and my DMs were filling up faster than I could keep track of. The story was spreading like wildfire through our entire university community. Blake sat down on his bed, scrolling through his own phone as updates came in real time. "Dude, this is everywhere," he said, showing me post after post about the situation. "Someone made a compilation video of just the part where she called you a placeholder. It already has like 20,000 views." The speed at which everything was moving was honestly incredible. In the age of social media, drama travels at light speed. What really amazed me was how quickly people were choosing sides. The comment sections were filled with people defending me and absolutely destroying Chloe. "She really thought she did something," one comment read. "Imagine being this cruel to someone who loves you," said another. "Marcus dodged a bullet," was probably the most common sentiment. But Chloe's attempts at damage control were already beginning. I could see her posting and deleting Instagram stories, trying to figure out how to spin this situation in her favor. Her friends were trying to help, posting their own stories about how it was just a joke and people are overreacting. But the internet had already made up its mind and there was no going back. The most satisfying part was watching the viewer count on the original stream recording continue to climb. What had started as a sorority party for maybe 50 people had turned into a viral moment that thousands of people were now witnessing. Chloe had wanted attention and validation from social media, and she had certainly gotten it, just not in the way she had intended. Blake looked up from his phone again. "So what's your plan now?" he asked. "Are you going to talk to her when she inevitably shows up here tomorrow?" I thought about it for a moment. "Honestly, I think I've said everything I need to say. She made it clear what she thinks of me, and I made it clear that I'm not going to accept being treated that way. The rest is just going to be her dealing with the consequences of her own actions." Update 1. Saturday morning brought a level of chaos that I never could have anticipated. Even after everything that had happened Thursday night, I woke up to my phone completely overwhelmed with notifications. 847 Instagram notifications to be exact. There were 23 missed calls from Chloe, which showed just how desperate she had become overnight. The text thread with my boys had exploded to over 200 messages as they tried to process what they had witnessed and keep me updated on all the developments I might have missed while sleeping. The first thing I did was check Chloe's Instagram to see how she was handling the aftermath. Her live stream from the night before was gone, completely scrubbed from her profile as if it had never happened. But anyone who spent any time on the internet knows that nothing ever really disappears once it's been posted. Screen recordings were already circulating on every platform imaginable, and the damage was far beyond her ability to control. Someone had made a compilation TikTok of her calling me a placeholder boyfriend, set to dramatic music that made the whole thing even more devastating than it had been in real time. The video already had 50,000 views and climbing, with comments that ranged from supportive of me to absolutely brutal toward her. The internet had spoken, and the verdict was not in Chloe's favor. In a desperate attempt at damage control, Chloe had posted a lengthy Instagram story trying to explain herself. "Last night, I made a horrible mistake," she wrote. "I said things I didn't mean while I was drunk. Marcus is an amazing boyfriend, and I was just being stupid trying to be funny for my friends. I love him so much, and I'm praying he can forgive me for this momentary lapse in judgment. Please stop sending me hate messages." It was too little, too late. The internet doesn't forgive easily, especially when the offense was so public and cruel. The real entertainment was watching her sorority sisters desperately try to distance themselves from the situation. These were the same girls who had been laughing and encouraging her during the live stream, but now they were all trying to save their own reputations. Zoe had posted her own story. "I was just filming. I had no idea Chloe was going to say that stuff about Marcus," sending love to everyone involved. Even her own sisters were throwing her under the bus to protect themselves from the backlash. But what really made me laugh was the flood of DMs I was receiving from girls on campus. Apparently, being publicly humiliated by your girlfriend on livestream makes you extremely attractive to college women. My Instagram direct message requests had gone from 3 to 247 overnight, which was honestly more attention than I'd ever received in my entire life. The messages ranged from supportive to flirtatious. "You deserve so much better. Can't believe she said that about you. You're way more than a 6/10. Coffee sometime? And you seem like a real one." It was incredibly validating to receive this kind of positive attention after being torn apart so publicly, but I had bigger plans than just enjoying the ego boost. The most interesting development was how quickly word had spread beyond just our immediate social circles. People I had never met were reaching out. Friends of friends were commenting on the situation, and even some professors had apparently heard about what happened. Blake told me that his girlfriend had heard about it from her roommate, who had heard about it from someone in her chemistry class. The story was spreading like wildfire through the entire university. Around noon, I knew the real test was coming. Blake texted me from the common area. "Your ex is here and she looks rough." I had been expecting this visit all morning, knowing that Chloe would eventually work up the courage to confront me in person after her social media damage control had failed so spectacularly. I opened the door to find Chloe standing there in yesterday's dress, looking absolutely terrible. Her makeup was smeared from crying, her eyes were red and puffy, and she looked like she hadn't slept at all since the live stream disaster. Behind her stood her sorority big sister Ashley, who was probably there as moral support, and to make sure Chloe didn't completely fall apart during what was obviously going to be a difficult conversation. "Marcus," Chloe started, her voice immediately breaking with emotion. "Please, can we talk? I know I messed up, but..." She was already on the verge of tears before she could even finish her sentence. "You called me a placeholder boyfriend on live stream to 2,000 people, I interrupted calmly, stating the facts without any emotion. What exactly is there to talk about? I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. There's a difference between being hurt and being finished, and I had definitely reached the finished stage. "I was drunk. I didn't mean any of it," she said desperately, the words tumbling out of her mouth in a rush. "You know how I get when I'm performing for people. I just say stupid stuff for attention. It doesn't mean anything." And there it was. The truth that she probably didn't even realize she had just admitted. She did know exactly what she was doing. She had chosen attention and entertainment value over my dignity and our relationship. "So, your defense is that you publicly humiliated me for entertainment?" I asked, genuinely curious about how she thought this explanation would make things better. The logic was completely backwards. Admitting that she had deliberately hurt me for social media content wasn't the compelling argument she seemed to think it was. Ashley stepped forward at this point, clearly trying to play peacekeeper in a situation that was beyond repair. "Marcus, Chloe's been crying all night," she said, as if her emotional state somehow undid the damage she had caused. "She knows she messed up. Can't you just..." She trailed off, probably realizing that there wasn't really a reasonable way to finish that sentence. "With all due respect, Ashley," I said, keeping my tone polite but firm, "this has nothing to do with you. Chloe made her choice on camera in front of thousands of people. I made mine online for everyone to see. We're done." It was that simple. She had shown me exactly what she thought of me, and I had responded by showing her exactly what I thought of being treated that way. Chloe's face completely crumpled at my words. "You can't be serious," she said, her voice rising with panic. 10 months, Marcus. 10 months. You're going to throw that away over one stupid comment." The desperation in her voice was almost painful to hear, but she still didn't seem to understand the fundamental issue. "You threw it away the moment you called me a placeholder," I replied simply. "I'm just acknowledging reality." This was the truth that she didn't want to face. I wasn't the one who had destroyed our relationship. She had done that all by herself while I sat in my dorm room watching it happen. That's when her true colors really came out, and she showed me exactly who she was when she didn't get her way. "Fine," she snapped, and her tears disappeared instantly, replaced by cold anger. "You want to be petty? You're nothing without me, Marcus. You think these girls sliding into your DMs actually care about you? They just feel sorry for you." The mask was completely off now, and I was seeing the real Chloe. "You're still the same boring psychology major driving a Toyota Camry," she continued, her voice getting more vicious with each word. "Nothing about you has changed just because you got some sympathy attention online." She was trying to hurt me the way she felt hurt, but her words just confirmed everything I already knew about how she really saw me. I smiled at her, feeling nothing but relief that I was finally seeing her without any pretense. "You're absolutely right," I said calmly. I am the same guy. The difference is now I'm the same guy who isn't dating someone who thinks of him as a placeholder. With that, I closed the door, leaving her and Ashley standing in the hallway to deal with the consequences of her choices. Update 2. The real entertainment started Sunday night when Chloe, clearly spiraling from the social media backlash that was continuing to grow, decided to double down in what turned out to be the worst possible way. She posted a TikTok titled, "My Side of the Story," where she attempted to paint herself as the victim in the entire situation. This was a masterclass in poor decision-making and terrible timing. In the 3-minute video, she claimed that I was emotionally manipulative and controlling. According to her new narrative, I had somehow forced her to stay in a relationship she wasn't happy in, which was supposedly why her comments on the live stream were just her finally being honest about feeling trapped. The revisionist history was absolutely incredible to witness. This video was truly a masterclass in manipulation and gaslighting. She talked about how I was supposedly controlling, though she couldn't provide any actual examples because there weren't any. She claimed that I had isolated her from her friends, which was particularly absurd since I had dinner with her sorority sisters every single week and was always encouraging her to spend time with them. She even suggested that she was afraid to break up with me because I had made her financially dependent on me, which was laughable considering she had a credit card from her parents and a trust fund that was worth more than I would make in several years. But the most outrageous part was when she claimed that calling me a placeholder was actually brave because she was standing up for herself against an oppressive relationship. According to her twisted logic, publicly humiliating me in front of thousands of people was somehow an act of liberation and self-empowerment. The mental gymnastics required to reach that conclusion were truly Olympic level. The comment section was absolutely not having any of this nonsense. "Girl, we literally watched you call him a placeholder boyfriend for entertainment," one comment read. "This is not the serve you think it is," said another. "The audacity is astronomical," was a popular sentiment. Imagine getting dumped for your own actions and trying to make yourself the victim. Perfectly summed up what most people were thinking. Someone had even stitched her TikTok with clips from her original live stream, creating a side-by-side comparison that made her lies completely obvious to anyone watching. That video got 200,000 views in just 6 hours, and the contrast between what she had said originally and what she was claiming now was so stark that it was almost comical. But Chloe wasn't done making things worse for herself. She started commenting on other people's posts about the situation, arguing with anyone who criticized her behavior. She was sliding into the DMs of girls who had messaged me, warning them that I was vindictive and not what I seemed. This desperate campaign to salvage her reputation was only making her look more unhinged and manipulative. The sorority intervention came on Tuesday, and it was honestly something I should have seen coming. Blake told me he'd heard from his girlfriend that Chloe had been called into a meeting with her sorority's executive board. Apparently, her public meltdown was reflecting poorly on the entire organization, and they were getting questions from alumni about the situation. Younger members were embarrassed to be associated with her behavior, and the leadership was concerned about the impact on their reputation. Ashley knocked on my door that evening, looking absolutely exhausted and defeated. "Marcus, I need to ask you a favor," she said, and I could tell from her expression that this conversation was going to be about damage control. "Can you please ask people to stop tagging our sorority in posts about Chloe? It's getting out of hand and affecting all of us." "I haven't tagged your sorority in anything," I replied honestly. I had been very careful to keep my responses focused on Chloe specifically, not her organization. "I know, but your story started all this," Ashley said, clearly grasping at straws. "And now it's affecting all of us who had nothing to do with what she said." "Chloe's?" She paused, searching for the right words. "She's not handling this well. She's been drinking every night, starting fights with the other girls, and frankly, she's becoming a liability to our entire house." The picture she was painting was of someone who was completely self-destructing, and I almost felt bad for Chloe. Almost. "What do you want me to do about it?" I asked Ashley, genuinely curious about what she thought I could possibly do to fix a situation that Chloe had created entirely by herself. The whole conversation felt surreal. They wanted me to somehow undo the consequences of her own public actions. "Could you maybe post something asking people to move on?" Ashley suggested hopefully. "Like saying you've both learned from this and you're ready to put it behind you? Maybe ask people to stop sharing the videos and screenshots?" She was essentially asking me to help Chloe escape the natural consequences of her choices, which seemed completely backwards to me. I considered her request for exactly 1 second before responding. No. The answer was simple and final. There was no reason for me to help someone who had publicly humiliated me for entertainment, especially when everything that was happening to her now was entirely of her own making. Ashley's face fell at my response. "Marcus, please," she tried again, her voice taking on a desperate tone. "I know she hurt you, but this is ruining her life. Can't you find it in your heart to forgive her and help her move past this?" The emotional manipulation was obvious, but I wasn't falling for it. "Ashley, she ruined her own life," I said firmly. "The moment she decided to publicly humiliate me for entertainment on live stream, she set all of this in motion. I haven't posted anything about her since Saturday night. Everything that's happening now is just the natural consequence of her own actions." This was the truth that nobody seemed to want to acknowledge. "But you could make it stop," Ashley insisted, still trying to find some way to make this my responsibility. "You have influence over how people are reacting to this. If you asked them to move on, they probably would." She was overestimating my control over the situation and underestimating how the internet works. "Why would I want to make it stop?" I asked, genuinely puzzled by her logic. "For 10 months, I was completely loyal to someone who thought of me as a placeholder. I gave her everything I had emotionally, and she repaid that by tearing me apart for social media content. Now the whole school knows exactly what kind of person she is. That's not revenge. That's just truth finally coming to light." Ashley stood there for a moment, clearly realizing that I wasn't going to be swayed by guilt or emotional appeals. "So you're just going to let her suffer because you're angry?" She tried one last time, attempting to frame my refusal as cruelty rather than simple justice. "I'm not letting her do anything," I replied calmly. "She made a choice to prioritize entertainment and social media validation over basic human decency. She chose to humiliate someone who loved her for laughs and views. Now she's dealing with the consequences of that choice. I'm not responsible for protecting her from the results of her own actions." With that clear explanation, Ashley left without another word, finally understanding that there would be no rescue coming from me. The situation had reached a point where even her closest friends were realizing that Chloe had created an unsalvageable mess. The fact that her own sorority sisters were distancing themselves from her and asking me to help clean up her reputation spoke volumes about how badly she had miscalculated the consequences of her actions. Over the next few days, I heard through Blake that things were getting even worse for Chloe. The drinking that Ashley had mentioned was becoming a serious problem, and she was apparently lashing out at anyone who tried to talk to her about the situation. Her social media presence, which had been the center of her identity, was now working against her as every platform reminded her of her mistake. Update 3. 2 weeks later, the situation reached its natural conclusion in the most satisfying way possible. The consequences that had been building since that Thursday night live stream finally came to a head, and justice was served in ways I could never have orchestrated myself. Chloe had been placed on social probation by her sorority, which meant she couldn't participate in any events or represent them in any official capacity. For someone whose entire identity was built around her social status and her position as sorority president, this was essentially social death. Her TikTok account had been reported so many times for harassment and bullying that it got temporarily suspended, cutting off her primary source of validation and attention. Most importantly, her reputation on campus was completely and permanently destroyed. But the real karma came in the form of Derek Martinez, and this was the most poetic justice I could have imagined. Derek was the guy that Chloe had rated a solid 9 during that infamous live stream. He was tall, blonde, captain of the soccer team, and exactly the type of guy that Chloe thought she deserved instead of settling for a placeholder like me. He represented everything she thought was missing from her life. After her very public meltdown and the weeks of drama that followed, Derek apparently felt comfortable telling people what he really thought of her. Blake's girlfriend overheard him at a party, and his words were absolutely devastating. "Chloe's hot, but she's psycho. Did you see how she treated her boyfriend on that live stream? Imagine what she'd do to you if you actually dated her. Hard pass." The same guys that Chloe had been trying to impress with her brutal honesty about me were now avoiding her like the plague. It turned out that publicly humiliating your boyfriend doesn't make you more attractive to other men. It just makes you look cruel and untrustworthy. The very behavior she thought would elevate her status had actually destroyed any chance she had with the guys she thought she wanted. Meanwhile, my life had genuinely improved in ways I never could have expected. The attention from the situation had led to me getting invited to parties I never would have been invited to before. People knew who I was now, and more importantly, they respected how I had handled everything. I had become something of a campus legend, not for anything I had done wrong, but for how I had responded to being wronged. I had started talking to Lily, a girl from my philosophy class who had reached out after seeing everything go down. She was smart, funny, and most importantly, she thought the whole situation was hilarious rather than tragic. Her perspective on everything was refreshing and showed me what it was like to be with someone who actually appreciated me. "The way you handled that was legendary," she told me over coffee during one of our first real conversations. "Most guys would have either gotten angry and made a scene or tried desperately to win her back. You just moved on with dignity. It was so mature and attractive." Hearing this from someone I was genuinely interested in made me realize how toxic my relationship with Chloe had really been. 3 weeks after the live stream incident, I ran into Chloe at the campus coffee shop. She looked absolutely terrible, tired, stressed, and like she hadn't been sleeping well for days. When she saw me, her face went through about 5 different emotions in rapid succession, before finally settling on what I can only describe as complete defeat. "Marcus," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper, "can we please talk for just 5 minutes? Please?" The desperation in her voice was palpable, and for a moment I almost felt bad for her. She had gone from being one of the most popular girls on campus to being a cautionary tale in just a few weeks. I looked at her for a long moment, taking in how much she had changed since that night. Part of me genuinely felt bad for her. She had gone from being one of the most popular and confident girls on campus to looking like someone who was barely holding it together. But then I remembered sitting in my dorm room, watching her call me a placeholder boyfriend to thousands of people for entertainment. And that sympathy quickly faded. "What's there to talk about, Chloe?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral but not particularly warm. I wasn't going to be cruel, but I also wasn't going to pretend that we were friends or that what had happened between us was something that could be easily fixed with a conversation. "I'm sorry," she said, and for the first time since I had known her, she actually sounded completely sincere. There was no performance in her voice, no attempt to manipulate or charm her way out of trouble. "I'm really, truly sorry. I was drunk and stupid and I was showing off, and I ruined the best thing in my life." The admission seemed to cost her something to say. "The best thing in your life was a placeholder boyfriend," I replied, and I watched her physically wince at hearing her own words thrown back at her. It was a harsh reminder of exactly what she had said, but it was also the truth that she needed to confront. "You were never a placeholder," she said desperately, her voice starting to shake with emotion. I don't know. I was trying to be cool for my friends. I thought it would be funny. I thought people would think I was being honest and relatable." The explanation revealed just how shallow her thinking had been, and how little she had considered the impact of her words. "It was funny," I said matter-of-factly. "Just not in the way you intended." This seemed to hit her harder than anything else I could have said, because it forced her to confront the reality that her attempt at humor had backfired spectacularly. She looked like she might start crying right there in the coffee shop. "I know I don't deserve it," she continued, her voice getting smaller and more desperate. "But is there any chance you could forgive me? Maybe we could try again? I'll do anything to make this right." I thought about her request for exactly 1 second before responding. "No." The answer was simple and final, and I could see the last bit of hope drain from her face when she heard it. "Marcus, please," she begged, clearly not ready to accept that this was really over. "I'll do anything. I'll delete all my social media accounts. I'll transfer schools if that's what it takes. I'll completely change who I am as a person." The desperation in her voice was almost painful to hear. "Chloe," I interrupted gently, not wanting to be unnecessarily cruel but needing to make my position absolutely clear. "You told 2,000 people that you were only with me because you weren't ready to be single. You said that I was easy and convenient, and that you were settling for me until something better came along." I paused to let that sink in. "You can't unsay that, and even if you could, I wouldn't want you to." "What do you mean?" she asked, confusion mixing with the desperation in her voice. "I mean, you did me a favor," I explained. "You showed me exactly what you thought of me, and you showed everyone else what kind of person you really are. Now I'm with someone who actually wants to be with me, not someone who's just avoiding being alone." The truth of this statement felt good to say out loud. Her face fell even further when she realized what I was telling her. "You're dating someone else?" The pain in her voice was genuine, but it was also too late to matter. "I'm talking to someone," I confirmed. "Someone who thinks I'm more than a placeholder. Someone who actually appreciates me for who I am instead of seeing me as a temporary solution to her fear of being single." Chloe nodded slowly, tears finally starting to fall down her cheeks. "I hope she makes you happy," she said. and for the first time in our entire conversation, she sounded like she meant it without any ulterior motive. "She does," I said simply. "Take care, Chloe." With that, I walked away feeling nothing but relief. No anger, no sadness, no regret. Just the deep satisfaction of knowing that I had dodged a bullet and found something much better. Final update. 6 months later, Chloe transferred to a school across the state, and according to Ashley, she couldn't handle the constant reminders of her public humiliation. Every time someone new discovered the TikTok compilations or heard the story from a friend, she would have to relive the entire nightmare all over again. The viral nature of social media meant that her mistake would follow her indefinitely, at least within our university community. The decision to transfer made sense from her perspective. She couldn't walk across campus without people recognizing her as that girl who called her boyfriend a placeholder on live stream. The story had become part of campus folklore, and there was no escaping it. Every party, every class, every social gathering was a potential reminder of the worst moment of her life. Lily and I made our relationship official 2 months after that coffee shop encounter with Chloe. She turned out to be everything that Chloe wasn't. Genuine, kind, supportive, and most importantly, she thought I was a catch rather than a consolation prize. We could laugh about the whole situation together, which showed me what a healthy relationship actually looked like. Lily even joked that she should send Chloe a thank you card for being such a terrible girlfriend that she opened up my dating schedule. The hashtag #placeholderboyfriend saga became genuine campus legend, the kind of story that gets passed down from class to class. Freshmen still ask upperclassmen about it during orientation week, and it's become one of those cautionary tales that people tell when discussing social media consequences. Someone in the communications department even turned it into a case study for a class about social media ethics and the permanent nature of digital content. As for me, I learned some valuable lessons about relationships and self-worth that I never could have learned any other way. Sometimes the trash really does take itself out, and sometimes the person who claims to love you will show you exactly how little you mean to them when they think it's safe to do so. Sometimes that revelation, as painful as it might be in the moment, ends up being the best gift they could ever give you. Chloe had wanted excitement over stability, performance over genuine connection, and social media validation over authentic love. She got exactly what she asked for. A very exciting, very public destruction of her own reputation that provided plenty of drama and attention. Just not the kind she had been hoping for. I got something infinitely better through the whole experience. I got to find out who I really was when I stopped trying to be good enough for someone who would never think I was good enough anyway. I discovered my own self-respect and learned that I deserved to be with someone who valued me for who I was, not someone who saw me as a temporary placeholder, until something more exciting came along. The entire experience taught me that settling for someone who doesn't truly appreciate you is one of the worst things you can do to yourself. It's better to be alone than to be with someone who sees you as a backup plan or a safety net. Real love means being someone's first choice, not their consolation prize. Looking back now, I can honestly say that watching Chloe call me a placeholder boyfriend on live stream was one of the best things that ever happened to me. It forced me to confront the reality of our relationship and gave me the clarity I needed to walk away from something that was ultimately toxic. And honestly, that kind of clarity and self-respect is worth way more than being someone's placeholder could ever be.